Native Land Pod is a production of iHeart Radio in partnership with Reason Choice Media.
Welcome.
Welcome home, y'all. This is Angela Rye with Tiffany Cross and Andrew Gillum. You tuned in to this week's MiniPod.
So on this show, we are constantly making decisions about what topics to present to you guys who listen at home. Thank you for tuning in every week. And we have a duty that we take very seriously to discuss stories that are not only relevant to our audience, but we treat it like what you want to know and what you need to know. So I know that you guys have heard me groan consistently about when we cover Trump, because I really get tired of it. And behind the scenes, this has been an ongoing debate between us. And we want to bring you in the process of how we decide what to cover, why we decide these things. And I've often said our most interesting conversations take place when we're in the hotel getting hair and makeup and, getting ourselves together. Or when we're remote, we have a call with just the three of us co-hosts where we talk about these things. So I want to dive right in and talk about some of the things that we've debated in the past about covering and some of the things that's an ongoing debate with us now. And I wish we had a videographer this morning because you all would have seen a Jerry Springer throwdown with the three of us.
Ain't never been.
The three of us about what we cover. I tape behind the scenes. They get tired of me. Okay.
No, we don't. Never. Never that, sissy.
So I know we have a clip to play. I don't want to start us out there. Well, because I think it's on the same tone of things that we have disagreed about covering before. And Trump, I think, leads that. I've talked about covering him ad nauseum. I think people are tired of it, exhausted. And I think it is, and we all come to this in three different roles, three different histories, and three different goals. We have different goals that we have on this podcast. And I think for me, I have never wanted to follow the news, but drive the news. And so while everybody else is talking about Trump, I think what are people at home not hearing about, which is 1,000 things every single day. Yeah. Angela, I'll let you say what you think, but I feel like your thing is this is a big, huge story, and you are super concerned about him getting back in the White House. Like we all are, but you're like, no, we got to sound the alarm on this. And Andrew, you have said, like, not normalize this. Something that we played that I had a serious challenge with was the clip of the black people talking about voting for Trump.
Black people?
Trump or Biden?
Trump.
Why do you say that?
He's a businessman. He's going to think business. And Biden is a racist.
Who do you think has done more for the black community, Trump or Biden?
I ain't even see Biden yet. I know Trump was out here. He was out here. Oh, bro, he was out here. He slid for us. Oh, God.
That's why he built the highest wall. Mike was coming over here and everything. And, we've been here for all this time and can't get a free hamburger. And they come here and get all this shit, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I say, Biden, he ain't doing shit, he ain't shit. So, but Trump, I would feel that will be the better person to get in.
Biden, everything fuck Biden.
I'll tell you what my challenge was. As a journalist, I have to remind myself we're not in a newsroom, but in my mind, I think this is a newsroom and we're, but I thought immediately it felt irresponsible for me because I had never heard of this outlet. It was like Black Conservative Network, 1. 2, it hadn't been independently vetted. Like, we don't know what this is, 3, are these paid people? Do we know these were actual voters? They said they were in. That's why I stopped myself from saying black people in Chicago. I don't even know that. They said they're in Chicago. We don't know, were y'all paid to participate? How do we know you're registered voters? And in a newsroom, you feel comfortable playing whatever because it's been vetted 18 times. I also thought the narrative of black people voting for Trump is another irresponsible one that the media pushes consistently. Angela, you felt really strongly about playing that. And so we cut out the discussion between us, and I kind of now wish we left it back in.
I want to hear some of it.
Some of it, but not all of it.
Okay.
And we cut the soundbite short. So but whatever they missed, I want you to say like why you felt like.
Yeah, I don't want to do a deep dive on this necessarily, but I will say this. I get asked, I don't know about y'all, but I consistently get asked by folks who are older than me, how do they talk to their kids? How do they talk to their grandkids who are saying they might vote for Trump, or they're free thinkers, or they might sit at home, which to me is basically a de facto vote for Trump. I also am hearing so much. I think especially when we first started the pod around that time, there was so much rumbling about the migrant crisis in Chicago, in LA, in New York, and how people were responding to that, particularly in our communities, because they felt uncared for by people who we consistently elect. And that has been an age-old problem too. And then I think finally, I want us to always feel safe delving into the things that make us cringe and uncomfortable and have to face what is. And I think that partially comes from my trauma around the 2016 election, because I was so freaking cocky about what was not going to happen. There's no way, nobody thinks like that. And this time I'm like, no, I'm going to hone in, even if it was a video that is like rife with misinformation. I want to see it because I want to know what the other arguments are. When you are paying people to go knock on doors in ways that they haven't made that investment in our community on the progressive side, I want us to know what that is. And so my whole thing here is, if I can reach people by going into what makes me uncomfortable, I'm going to do it. That also, like, as an attorney, that sharpens my argument. So I want to know what's being said. I'll leave it there because that already went longer.
But even the piece of we don't really know what this is. I don't even know where we got it from, but I'm like, I literally have never heard about it. So I wonder your thoughts.
It was online. They played it on Fox,
yes.
But I'm saying, you can laugh, but
that goes to my point, though. Like Fox, to me, it just wasn't vetted info.
Fox it doesn't have to be vetted.
More
millions of people are watching Fox. That's my point.
So I would think
even people on our side, because they want to know what the other side's saying.
I would argue, if we were gonna play, and I want to say Angela put this in the script, because when me and Andrew were like, what? And Angela was like, I mean, it was in the script, like I put it there. We just hadn't looked at it. So it was there. But then I would say I would have put a caveat, like, oh, let me just be clear, we don't know what this is. So that
we didn't get to it because y'all had this reaction. I didn't get to even say, this is the shit that they're playing on.
But let me ask you this: when you platform,
okay, good.
But when we platform something like that, because I think that is the bigger question. When you platform something like that, or what we choose to platform, are you drawing unnecessary attention to it? Are you elevating something based off what all of them are saying? Because you're saying, I'm leaning in, I'm traumatized and it makes me uncomfortable and cringe. I want to lean into it. Think about all the people out there who make us uncomfortable and cringeworthy because they're saying something asinine and ignorant. By us having this platform, elevating it, presenting it out there, are we helping them say, now look at this, what I would call nonsense, and weigh in, and taking time away from something more substantive? And I want y'all to know, Andrew told me we need not be so highbrow in our covers. I want Andrew to weigh in on that too. But that's what I put out there to y'all.
So I'll just offer, I heard you say this is what they're playing on Fox, and it pricked me because I couldn't tolerate the exercise of listening to Fox. And your comment just now about
I can't either, to be clear.
In the
you can't
the Javits Center down the street that night.
Yes.
Talking to Bill Clinton as it looked like the world was coming. I couldn't believe what was happening. In
Literally.
fact, I left so early in the night because to go to the airport, to sleep at the airport so I could be on the first flight out.
Yeah.
The next morning back home to just get in bed and sleep because I wasn't sure what the world was going to be made of, right? So I remember the trauma of that, and those two things helped me to play along. Mm-hmm. My objection around the focusing of that particular video was, you said it was playing on Fox, and I said to myself, okay, so we rarely ever get our voices centered in the news on Fox. And so the one time you're going to put black folk voices on your platform is when they are talking nonsense. I was so mad at everybody in that thing. And you're right, I didn't know whether they were paid, whether they acted. I didn't know any of that. None of us did. But on the rare occasions in which we're going to get a platform, let's at least elevate where there is a majoritarian view, or at least a critical mass view, not this very narrow and isolated view. Yeah, maybe it's more than we would want, but 10% of the voting black folks in this country are voting for Trump. 10%.
Well, 10%
of
registered voters.
Of what we have baked in. That's what they have pretty much gotten. It's about 10%.
But that's just my point. That's always been the case. So this whole sound the alarm narrative that I'm like, that happened in every election except for Obama.
I do think it's important to sound the alarm. I did not want to platform what was a view that I don't hear expressed ever in that way, and then use that as the jumping off point to either agree with the popular assertion that blacks are flocking to Trump, or to disagree with blacks flocking to Trump. There are other ways in which I felt like that point could have been made short of that video. That video, however, was shock, it was awe, and it did percolate up a conversation amongst our new followers.
It wasn't just us.
I know it. Yeah. I know it. People were shocked that we were, as RJ told me, they were shocked that we were shocked to hear those comments.
I wasn't shocked to hear the comments, for the record.
Well, I didn't believe them.
Right. I'm like, who are these people?
I didn't believe them.
They're there.
Was my thing. But we were the fools in the fact that everybody else seems to have heard all this stuff percolating.
But I'm not saying I hadn't heard it, Andrew. I'm saying I don't want to be an echo chamber for what they play on Fox.
I guess I should say,
not only that it had been heard. We were supposed to cover overall, and now we're held knee deep in, why did I pick this? And I just think that's Angela, not even okay.
Well, then let me excuse myself from that part.
I'm not saying both of y'all. I want to elevate how do we decide. I just think that it's reasonable.
If I could just finish this point, which is to say, I don't mean it to be an attack on this particular. I mean this to be a blowback of when we have the ability to platform something and it is a view, let it be more than a basically Trump paid ad, and maybe a more legitimate platform of voices that are this, that, and the third. And I only use a Trump ad as a harbinger for whatever the issue is. If we're going to give it platform, if we're going to give it life and breath, don't let it be just for shock, awe, and value, shock value, but let it be for, that's not my condemnation of this, by the way. It is in general. This is the bar I think I set for how I screen things. But I also don't want to have my head so buried in the sand, knowing that my network of voices and ears are saying one thing, and just because this disagrees with that it isn't true. I also know that not to be the case as well. And I honestly, of the three of us, Angela, I trust your instincts at a pedestrian level better than I trust most, because you go to places like the Breakfast Club and you listen in to calls that are coming in. And I think people feel a level of access with you that they come to you and they come direct because they feel that you meet them direct.
They also drag the shit out of me for being a Democratic shield. I think all I'm saying is
people are nuts.
But I can't keep saying everybody's nuts.
They're nuts if they're saying you're a shield for the Democrats. But
I think, Tiff, that's their perspective. Yeah. And I think everything that's a different perspective isn't nuts. Like sometimes when people are so hurt and damaged, they go and do the other extreme thing, and it is not okay, and it's not cool, but it doesn't just happen politically.
Agreed.
And I think it is irresponsible. Like, fine, you guys didn't like the video. Cool. That's not the point. If we're only talking to ourselves,
correct,
that little bubble is going to continue to shrink until we suffocate. We can say that it needed to be a legitimate source. Had stuff to say about when a Washington Post article came out about black people in Detroit not wanting to vote for Joe Biden and potentially voting for Donald Trump. When the uncommitted option came out, there were 100,000 plus people that voted uncommitted. This is a real issue.
In a state
so
that
if
we
people
lost by
take
8,000
issue with
votes.
how we cover it, then find another option, or let's talk about another option. But to be like, this ain't cool, I don't like it because they're not a legitimate source, or because I don't care. But I'm like, what I don't want to do is ever again go back to what I did in 2016 and be blind to the facts. Yeah. There are millions of people who are willing to even endanger us and our policies, and they're doing it every day on Capitol Hill and through state legislatures all over this country. This is not a minority view just because it's a minority of black people. And again, I don't think that this is the point. It's not just about this one clip. It is We should be able to disagree. And even if, Tiff, if you think something is nonsense, or Andrew, you think I could have found a better source, let's find that instead of being like, I'm not going to cover it. That's how we end up losing engagement.
I totally agree.
Literally. Like, we're in a place now where this shit is so narrowed down and so refined and so, like, we're not engaging people anymore.
I don't receive that.
It's true. Like, look at the numbers.
But I think the numbers at episode 18 are emblematic of a brand new show birthing and growing, and almost all things that are new and fresh are new and fresh at the start, and then it begins to settle into itself, and then we get a leveling point where then we make goals around what the growth areas then become. If things always remained how they began, why the hell does anybody have an aspiration toward doing better or a fear of what worse looks like? I'm not bothered by that, because I actually believe that what was most important is for the three of us to find our voices, to sediment into what those are, allow our audience to find what their relationship is to each of us and also to our voices, and ownership so that they can give feedback. I'm not afraid of topics that I disagree with at all. That's all good with me. I'm also not afraid of news that gets covered by cable news, and we cover it here because I respect the brilliance of each of your perspectives, and I almost for sure know that you're going to offer a point probably much more salient than anything I've heard on cable news, and much more resonant for me than anything I've heard anyplace else. But I don't think cable news is our bookend. I don't think that is our contrast. We are our own space. We don't have to be contrasted in that way in order to be in vogue or out of vogue. If it's news, take Trump, for instance. We got to talk about this thing because it ain't normal. It ain't natural. And there are people growing up in our democratic republic who are now perceiving these things to just be par for the course. They are not par for the course. We have all experienced democracy that looks way different than how we've observed it these last several years, almost decade. So all I'm saying is the moment we start to tune off that, not give mention to it, not give word to it, we then, I think, allow and create permission for everybody else, for no good reason, to just turn off to it because it's a name that seems familiar and one that I'm tired of hearing. That's a very lazy approach to maintaining a democracy. And I realize that that's not the battle everybody wakes up to fight, but you'll wake up to fight it when that shit ain't here no more. And I don't want to wait to that point because it's too late. Very rarely do we go back and get back the rights that we gave away. Think about after 9/11 and all the civil and personal rights we gave away to the government for the sake of security.
Yeah.
And we never got any of it back. The government still goes into all of our shit without permission because Congress and the public, the military industrial complex basically said, don't let a good crisis go to waste. Let us get into the emails, the phones, the records, the tapping, the intelligence of every individual American, and then start to build lists. These things happen. We know they do. So we can't give it up just because we're tired of a person's name and their recurrence in the news every day. That's not a good enough reason not to talk about it.
All right. So as y'all see, we disagree on what to cover sometimes.
Thanks for listening, y'all. Remember to rate, review, subscribe, and tune into our regular episodes every Thursday. Welcome home.
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.